Welcome back, everyone. We're here in part 6. This will be the last part of this story. I promise there'll be no more question of whether this is going to go on longer. I don't have that much more material in mind to stretch this to a part 7 or a part 8. Um, uh, I think at this point, even if I kind of come up with a new avenue that might stretch this part, it still won't carry it to a part 7. It's sort of with this part, I can, I'm confident, this one might actually get a little bit of padding, so to speak. So, I think I've got room if I come up with ideas that I want to throw in at the last minute. I've got room to play with this part. I think this one's going to be mostly sort of this climatic fight scene. That's almost all this is going to be. Is they're going to march to the warehouse. We're going to have it out. Everybody will get rescued, and then the only question is, at the end of this part, how much? Excuse me again. Is how much time do I devote to tying up and putting the story to rest? Um, Let me see. What I'll say while this is rendering. Um, um, as of now, I'm thinking this is going to be page 3. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to keep to the intended order or if these pages are going to get kind of shifted around. My thinking when I decided to split part 5 into a part 6, and I created sort of these four pages in the upstairs, the idea was that I was going to open the book here on these ladies sort of finally revealing their plan and sort of how petty it all is. Um, on page 2, they sense, the idea is on page 2, they realize the guys are coming, and Dee and Mona take off to meet them, leaving Kendall to watch over their prisoners. And then the idea is on page 3 is where I introduce the group coming once and for all. And the idea is this is where we sort of, this is kind of, oh, Jesus, and I got this, oh my God. Okay, so I gotta fix Tyler's, see, this is an instance where you apply the smoothing modifier so that it fixes the poke through, and then you just can't see it in the viewport. It only shows up in the render. So I think what I gotta do is find the thighs, right? And then I've got to put smooth, show hidden properties. And then we'll just kind of do that. And that's the only problem I've got to fix, right? Okay. Close that, and let's try that again. So the idea is I wanted to open up on the women, and then they take off, leaving Kendall, like I said, and then come out here for page 3, and you sort of see the men and Tamara sort of marching up to the warehouse. They have, they're going to have their sort of conversation, talk about their plan. Okay, so far I don't see a poke. I think this right there. Okay, let me just wait for the next. Okay, actually, what I'm going to do? Um, you know what? Let's cancel that and try that again. One of the things I could do is do this in layers, like I do with the in sort of the domestic scenes when I try to fudge that depth of field look. Where one possibility is I let this render as is, and then render another version making Tyler invisible but leaving his clothes visible. So it would look like, where's Tyler? Sophie T. Tyler. So basically render a version like that, and then layer the two images, and on this version, and on this version, I would just cut out everything except this little patch here, and then just glue that over the other layer. But I would have to do that in every shot where we see him. So I'm going to try. So put a camera in on that shot, and we'll try and fix this. I'm the wrong person. Tyler. So we're going to try and fix this. This makes no sense either. So I think this is waste. Let's see if I go. Oh. And I got the wrong asset. Okay, never mind. Shorts, folks. There we go. What I'm going to do is let's do a couple test renders to see if we got this. But the idea with this shot here is where we see them coming back for the first time in this part is I'm doing, that might be it. Okay, no. Okay, so let's cancel that. Let's see. So let's go with X. And then let's take the thighs again. And also, I'm seeing I get an issue with the texture that I gotta fix. The displacement has gotta go none. Basically, what I generally do with a lot of the clothing is I'll come through and remove the different texture maps that originally came with the clothing, and I'll sort of put in my own so that I can kind of color and design it as I want instead of being stuck with sort of the vendor's original intention. So sometimes I end up in a situation like that where I'll change the diffuse and then forget about things like the bump or the displacement maps. And then when I go and tile it to adjust for the texture I put in, it ends up messing up the bump or the displacement. So I've got to so I got to remember to remove those. But let's see if that solved my problem. I think the issue I'm dealing with is I think these shorts were designed for a different character. Maybe this is it. Yeah, okay, that's right. Okay, yeah, that's I think that fixed all my problems. So we'll cancel that. Cancel. Just start closing these. And then let's find my camera. This one would be camera 2. And then we'll render that. Now we'll finally get our first picture. But it's pretty much I'm still using the Genesis 1 figure from the Daz marketplace. Primarily because I like the standard uh, texture that comes with the model is a very good generic texture that I can just sit and kind of just sort of reshape the model, and it kind of like, even though like everybody sort of looks like, it's a good texture for creating sort of different looks by altering the model. But primarily I like Genesis 1 because I think in the first few years I've been sort of working with the program, the Daz puts a lot of Genesis 1 stuff in their freebies, in their bi-weekly freebies. So it just end up collecting a lot more assets for the Genesis 1 figure. And then sort of, I think in the past year, I've been doing a little bit of spending on the store to expand beyond the freebies. And you get the Michael and Victoria 4 assets and the Genesis 1 assets. Because they're older, you tend to find them a lot cheaper than sort of assets for the later models. So, the Genesis 1 figure is sort of it's like I've been finding it a good figure to work with, if you're looking at tight to no budget. Plus, I've just been comfortable working with the figure that sort of you watch me kind of pose them. It's like at a point where, um, I sort of just work with the figure without even thinking about it. and sort of when they shifted, when they sort of evolved to the Genesis 2, Genesis 3, and now Genesis 8. There's sort of like I think the Genesis 8 figure is a lot more drastic of a change. So it's, I think um, open his layers. I'm thinking in an early, in one of the videos earlier in this book, I present, I was showing you guys the kind of characters I mocked up for the story Burn Pit, and I have to say, like, there's something about them that doesn't grab me, and I'm thinking when I'm finished with this story and I start shifting towards work on that story, Burn Pit, I might start over on the characters. I might. And I have to say, like, probably coming into this year, 2020, um, I've actually been sort of picking up, where can I paste it as a layer? Picking up some textures and models for the later Genesis figures 2 and 3. And, I think the current sale, um, invert, I think the current sale they're running now, they're doing like a PC sale in the middle of summer. What was that? Okay, so like invert. I sort of finally bit the bullet and picked up a couple of the Genesis 8 Pro bundles that ended up uh, pretty much really dirt cheap at the start of the sale. I think I only picked up a couple because I kind of wanted to. I haven't really been sure about like all the D-Force clothing, and not really sure how much of this stuff is iRay only, where I use 3DL. Let me think. File open as layers. I got a text bubble. I haven't been. Trying to think. And now I can't remember which one is. Oh, okay, yeah. For some reason I can't remember which one is Corey's bubble. Where is it? This one. Oops, caps. This seems. And I actually like the. I'm not sure I like that. Let's see. I guess. Oh no, this stays black. So I'm picturing, and there's. I actually really like some of these characters that I've been picking up in the last month or so. So I'm actually thinking of scrapping. Let's see. scrapping the characters I'd created that you saw in an earlier video, and sort of in starting over with some of these skins from Genesis 2, 3, and 8, and using those models instead of the Genesis 1 model. But anyway, like kind of taking a time out for a second here on the discussion. The inspiration on the first appearance of these guys in this part is is a recreation of like the last time they showed up. It's not meant to be a faithful recreation, but it's supposed to sort of remind you of this trip when Rusty and Elliot came back with the crew. So you sort of get like that shot sort of again, but this time you've got Tamara in it. And it's like, A, she's bigger than she was at the end of the last part where she was in the gym. But two, this is where you really get a sense of scale that I don't think you had in the last part when she was in the gym, which is kind of intentional. I think you sort of want that to be a big reveal, but it's the idea is like she doesn't really look that big because she's not as muscular as the guys, but you see her next to Tyler and you sort of get a sense that she really is one of them now. What did I want to do? I need to see. Actually, I think I do bold this. It's like I got so many different rules with these text boxes that where I'm in a phase in the story where I've where I'm not. I'm in that phase of the story where I'm not using the narrated text boxes as much. So I tend to forget. It's like I tend to forget the rules for each individual person's speech. What do I want to do here? Let's fill that in. Layer image size, and we will go select invert row. I'll just sort of use this layer. Invert, edit, cut, right? Okay, and then we'll paste it back. Edit, paste as new layer. So we need to select none, and then wait a minute. Okay, so the question is, again, is this supposed to be a black border or a white border? I can't remember. Okay, so this is black. Sometimes you might notice it changes based on the background. I want it to stand out, so sometimes in a dark image, I'll switch the border to white. So now, I think this is no. I've got the shorts, so let's collapse all. Tyler's in front, so let's move him. I'm gonna put them in the street. Now I've got like 5 characters, and I don't want hidden properties on. This is the downside with these huge character scenes is they're going to basically reposition everyone. And now the street is not at ground level in the quote unquote world. Sort of ground level is the sidewalk. So when I want them walking on the street, I can't use Control D to automatically place them on the ground. I have to use, yeah, I have to do it manually. So I'm gonna move her down. There we go. Okay, we'll put him there. Even though chances are I'm not going to see all this, but at the very least, those characters that we don't see in the next, oops, I forgot to park him down. In the next panel, I can just move them without repositioning them and save the trouble later. Oh well. I'll take off the camera for a moment. Let's see. Actually, let's move him over there. No, it's the twist. I'm gonna move 0. And I think he's gonna turn. Sort of the idea with him, I was trying to get it like he was turning, whereas everybody else was already turned. And I think it doesn't help. Yeah, okay, so he's still gonna. There we go. Now let's move him to the street level. Oops. There we go. Bring you in right there. Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm kind of focusing on this a little more than the conversation. There. Whoops, come on. Oh no, you know what? Let's go camera. I'm gonna focus on her for a moment. I gotta be careful because I'm at the end of the world here, so I don't want to take the shot too angled. And then when it comes time to trim this down, I end up having the end of the world in the shot. I think this is a case where I'm not going to see him, so I don't know why I'm bothering to pose him, but oops, undo. So let's take that, and then we'll go Control C on that one. Or not. There we go. Transform. Flip it. I want this there for a moment. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Should I have her? I feel like I almost want her to say like, "His logo draws attention to my breasts," but she's supposed to be 16, so I really don't want to draw that much attention. Okay, this is going to get trimmed just a little bit. Merge down. The idea with this sequence is whereas the first two pages, I think, you know, finally give you the audience what their plan is, that this isn't some grand scheme to change the world. This is just something selfish. This scene here is sort of going to serve as um, let's call this page 3. This is going to serve as sort of the vehicle that to give you their plan. You know how they're expecting to sort of stop these women. You know, knowing that like from their point of view, the odds are still are stacked against them. Whereas like if the guys are going to step aside and let her do the fighting, it's still 3-on-1, and she's not a fighter. What's the idea is like she's never, it's like the idea is that she's never taken a self-defense class or she's never done martial arts or anything like that. This is just we've just taken an ordinary person, made them big, and expect them to be something they're not. I love that slogan. You will be judged. That's sort of like a parody take on one fitness club. Like I'm not sure if I can like name them or get away with naming them. I'll let you figure it out. It's like it's sort of a joke on one chain gym's like judgment free zone slogan, whereas they've got the judgment free zone, he's got the judgment zone. You will be judged. Oh shoot, I actually like having Tyler in this shot. What is this going to look like? I guess I can get away. I don't know. So here's the question: is can I tilt it? How much can I tilt this and get away with? Actually, let me keep. I'm gonna try this again, but we'll call this Alt, just in case I decide to keep the original picture. And I guess while that rendering, I'm gonna take a little snip here and take a break for let the video sort of rest while rather than make you sit through here watching all this. Okay, so I've rendered the alternate picture. We're gonna see what this looks like. Let's open that as layer scale. I'm not sure this actually. Yeah, I guess that's a little better. And thanks to Corey, he ends up blocking the edge of the building, which I think would be there. So I'll cut that. Okay. So I'm going to delete this one. Image size, and we'll cut, edit, cut. Invert, select, shrink. So now what we're going to do is just move everybody forward a little bit. Yeah, one thing I think I forgot to one thing I think I forgot to mention or forgot to talk about when I was going off on a tangent is that I tend to use the Genesis 1 model all the time, but some of the clothing was designed for the other generations. So I think the shorts, going back on the short issue, oh my god, So I think the shorts were designed for Genesis 2 and applied with auto fit. And sometimes auto fit works better than other times. So in the case of these shorts, this is one of those times where it's not really working. And you've got to kind of make extra adjustments. Let's go. This is going to be 37, right? Let's take this one, Control C. New layer, and we're going to transform it that way. I think take that one down there. Yeah. Split this. Oh, oh, that's what. Okay, want that there. Oops. What am I doing? I ended up cutting that. It's in clipboard now, so I can just paste as a layer. I don't want to move the text. That. So I've probably mentioned it in other videos that when I start on these projects, I'll generally create these environments. I'll largely create these environments myself. So the houses, I'll generally I've generally modeled myself. This warehouse across the street. The warehouse is something is something I created it myself. Um, what am I doing? I'm kind of in two thoughts at once here. But you know, then it's like I'll throw in stuff I've acquired on different modeling sites. So I think, let me do this. Invert and edit. Crap. No. So I think these buildings I have on the other side of the street. Ah, I've got a couple of different. Uh, yeah, it looks good. Let's see that. I've got a couple of different urban environment assets I've picked up on the Daz store. I think these buildings in particular, I think I think these are from a set called Urban Sprawl by a vendor called Stonemason. And I always find it funny in these urban environments, and it's not just his sets. I think you see it in general because I think a lot of these vendors are thinking their customers are buying these for anime projects. So I always find it, I kind of find it funny but annoying too that you get these urban environments where they're clearly in an English speaking country because you've got I'd say likely because of the street signs here. This is specifically an American city. Let me see if I can find a street sign. Yeah, see. So this was probably the vendor probably modeled this to be an American city. So you got the street signs are all in English. You've got like half the stores are in English, but then you've got half the stores have Asian characters. And I'm not sure if I've eliminated some of the signs or not on these two buildings. But I mean, it's like it's just funny that all these urban environments in the Daz store like seem to take place in Chinatown or something similar. Oops. You sort of like you kind of wish they'd stick to one or the other. Like if you're going to do an if it's going to be an Asian themed set, then make it an Asian themed set. If it's going to be like an American city, then make it an American city. It's like it's like they make it in this fusion. They make it this fusion that really like unless you go and eliminate all these signs and it's a very specific fusion. Oh shoot! I want to do. I want to do him, but he's at the end of the world, so I'm going to be dealing with this. So the only way I can do this is if I do an upward shot. Oh no, do an upward shot. Oh, not up and down. I'm in the wrong. I want it side to side is the one I'm looking for. So here, as long as I don't see the end of the street, I can get away with having a bit of sky when, because in my mind, I'm sort of envisioning this being like here in the South, all these cities are just massive sprawl. They're just sprawled out. So you're in like sort of a highly urbanized area, but the buildings are not usually packed together. So you can have these areas where maybe you've got a large office building and it's just surrounded by trees and nature uh, and empty space, like sort of like I'm going with here. You see the building and then there's like just nothing but sky. So that's what I kind of go with. So like, if you look at the sets back in that little neighborhood around his home and gym, everything seems to have a large lot. They're sort of industrialized buildings, but they're surrounded by massive lots. And I think that's what you're going for, is that, it might be an urbanized area, but the city is still spread out enough. It's got enough space that, everything's not crammed together, especially since they're not downtown. Right You wouldn't want to ruin any nice clothes when the fighting breaks out anyway. And let's see if I can condense this. Yeah, okay. I think that works, right? Yeah, that's good. I'm going to wait until I have the picture, which I do, in case I have to make adjustments to fit the space. Scale 33. See, it's a lot of sky. Right there. Okay. Cut. Select none. Edit. Paste as new layer. select none, edit, paste as layer, and bring that up there. Okay, let's merge that down, and I kind of want it within the box. There we go. So now let's go layer to image size. Invert, select, select none. Merge that down. Okay. So yeah, over on, like I was saying, over on this side of the street, these buildings were just thrown in from a product in my content library. While over here, the building is all mine. And when I say the building, I'm referring to the structure itself, not the textures. It's sort of like with props, models, assets, and all that. I end up like kit bashing the textures from assets, or you find like free textures online that you're allowed to use. So that I can make it easy and just throw them in and just focus on the modeling and throw the textures in, that sort of thing. But so basically, the building itself, I'm talking not the like all this debris is kit bashed from other sets, and actually these garage doors were kit bashed from another set, but everything like these doors here, the windows, the signs, the building itself. Let me show you lit wireframe, and this is going to be tough. So, lit wireframe. So if you can make out the geometry of the building, the letters, the signs, that's all something I've done in Hexagon. And I think I've mentioned in an earlier video, that when I go to when I put this project behind me and start work on creating sets for Burn Pit, I'm pretty sure I'm going to record. I'm pretty sure I'm going to record it and sort of put together a series like I do with this to show you sort of a glimpse into modeling, and actually modeling assets. See, I can hide that sign behind him, so that's not a problem. Although I think if I do that, um, because the project, whereas like individual pages, like I show you, is sort of on the scale of an hour or so. The work that's going to go into, um, say, the main character's house is going to be on a scale of days. So it's going to be, so like it's not going to be a completely raw experience like this is. It's going to be, if when I go get to do that project, it's going to be a sort of a heavily edited glimpse. Um, oops, I had a character in here. Let's see. Nope. I guess it's gonna go with. I guess I go with that. You. And I'll probably discuss it at some point in that project that the idea of showing you my modeling process will be sort of a how-to rather than a behind-the-scenes look. Then again, I think in probably like the first video I ever did with this, I think I think I said the idea was kind of the same, along the same lines, that it's kind of the intention is for any of you sort of thinking about doing you kind of sit there and like think about doing your own project, but you're never really motivated, or because maybe you don't think you can, you think it's too hard to learn or whatever. I mean, it took a couple of years for me to play around with this program to get to the point where, like I said, like, hey, I could actually do a comic. But let's see, 34. But like my intention is to show that it's not as daunting as it seems. Let's bring this down a little bit more. It's what I'm trying to say. If it's not all that clear, is like I sort of do this hoping, with the intention that it like gives some of you inspiration to kind of do your own projects. If you've got like an idea in your head that you don't think you can get out. Oh my. Now you know what? He'll be looking forward. I think I can use Corey again to hide the end of the world. Zoom in a little, maybe that will. Okay, yeah, the shot. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, well, he's going down exactly this. Let's see. Yeah, this kind of feels like the part of the video where I'm running out of things to say. That, that looks better. Do I have my picture? Not quite, but almost. Or maybe not. But, but I'm sure you've like seen a lot of other artists out there who use DAZ Studios do similar kinds of projects. I know there's a lot of people out there who do this kind of stuff with who even they just do still images to stage scenes. So maybe you don't have an idea for a story, but you've got an idea for an image, a scenario you want to capture. It's not really that hard, and and like I said, you can find a lot of assets out there for free if you're not working, if you're working with no budget, or you're cheap. Let's see, scale layer 34. Oh yeah, see, and you won't even once I cut this, you won't even see the end of the world there. Watch this. We put the right there. There we go. See, and it's like it's right there just after edit. See, look how you can like hide a flaw with the picture, with the model, with the environment, with whatever, with careful staging. Just a reminder that like it never has to be perfect. Edit, cut, select invert, shrink by 1, invert, and we cut that. Select none, merge that one down, and we forgot to merge this one down. This is going to be page 3. Let's save that. Image, flatten, and export. And this is going to be page 3. And as you see in the file list, I've got page A and B for when we go back. Whatever page this scene ends on, I'll end up renumbering these two to fit in to be next in line. So this seems familiar, but this time I have no intention of leaving without Francis. I feel stupid in these clothes. It's not like your old clothes fit. You're lucky Corey had a shirt in your size, and you wouldn't want to ruin any nice clothes when the fighting breaks out anyway. You remind me again how that happens? I don't exactly know how to fight, and these women don't exactly look like the type to have taken a self-defense class either. Just draw them out to the middle of the warehouse where you can handle them one at a time. That's page 3. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of that. And I will see you next time, whenever that is.